You don't get what you want in life. You get your standards, that's it. Most people walk around thinking success is about goals, or dreams, or wishes, and those things matter. But none of them mean a thing unless they're backed by your standards. Your standards are the invisible force that dictate your actions, your decisions, and ultimately, your results. Let's be real. Every single result in your life right now, you are either tolerating it, or you're demanding something better. If you're tolerating being broke, that's your standard. If you're tolerating a body you're not proud of, that's your standard. If you're stuck in a job that drains your soul, guess what? That is a reflection of your standard. The human brain adapts to whatever you decide is your new baseline. So the question is, what are you making non-negotiable? Think about it. There are areas in your life where you don't settle. Maybe you never let yourself leave the house without looking sharp. Maybe you'd never miss a workout. Maybe you always show up for your kids no matter how tired you are. That's not by accident. That's because somewhere along the line, you raised your standard in that area and you made it part of your identity. You don't try to do it. You must do it. And that's the secret. Success begins when should turns into must. People say, I should eat healthier. I should make more money. I should start that business. That's weak. You've got to turn those shoulds into musts because we live who we believe we are. If your standard is, I always find a way, you'll find a way. If your standard is, I never settle, then even in the face of failure, you'll find a path. Not because it's easy, but because you don't have another option. Success becomes inevitable when it's non-negotiable. Now let me hit you with this. Changing your standards isn't just about motivation. Motivation is fleeting, it comes and goes. What we're talking about is transformation, and transformation begins with decision. A real decision. Not a wish, not a preference. A decision that says, I will no longer lie below this line. When you draw that line in the sand and you mean it, your brain rewires itself. Your nervous system kicks into a higher gear. You start seeing options that weren't visible before, because your mind is now operating at a higher frequency. Here's the problem: most people set their standards based on their environment. They look around and say, well, everyone else is tired, broke, stressed out. I guess that's just life. That is one of the most dangerous games you can play, letting the mediocre majority define what's acceptable for you. Don't base your standards on your surroundings. Base your standards on your potential. Base them on who you're becoming, not who you've been. You have to decide that you're going to lead your life, not just react to it. When you raise your standards, you send a signal to your brain that says, this is who I am now. And your brain loves congruency. It wants to make your reality match your identity. So if your identity is, I am unstoppable, guess what? Even when things fall apart, you'll find a way to keep going. If your identity is, I'm the kind of person who gets results, then even if you hit a wall, you'll find a door. But none of that happens without a shift in your standard. This is why some people rise from rock bottom and others stay stuck there. It's not about talent. It's not about luck. It's about deciding, this ends with me. You've got to develop a disgust with average, a healthy intolerance for excuses. You've got to wake up and say, I was not born to be ordinary. You weren't. You were born with potential beyond measure, but that potential will rot if your standards stay low. You've got to raise the bar so high that the old you wouldn't even recognize who you're becoming. And I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about progression. Constant, relentless, unapologetic improvement. That doesn't happen with hope. It happens with hunger. When you're hungry enough, you don't need to be pushed. You push yourself. You don't need to be reminded. You're obsessed. That hunger is born the moment your standard gets upgraded. And let me tell you, when you upgrade your standard, you upgrade your life. Period. Look back at any breakthrough you've ever had. It didn't happen in a moment of comfort. It happened when you got sick and tired of being sick and tired. When you said, I've had enough. When you burned the boats and said, there is no plan B. That's when the shift began. That's when you stepped into a new level of power. And from that moment, everything changed. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And you changed because your standard changed. This is not a one-time thing. This is a way of life. You raise your standard once, you change your day. You raise it every day, you change your destiny. Most people dabble. They raise it when it's convenient, then drop it when it's hard. But champions don't dabble. They decide, they commit, they lock in, they live at a level that most people only visit. They choose excellence over and over again until excellence becomes their new normal. And let's be clear, this isn't just about success in business or making more money. It's about how you show up in every area of your life. Your relationships, your health, your character, your leadership. The quality of your life is the direct reflection of the standards you hold yourself to, even when no one's watching. Especially when no one's watching. Because that's who you really are. Not what you say, not what you post, but what you tolerate, what you accept, what you demand from yourself when no one's coming to save you. That's your standard. That's the foundation for everything that follows in this life. Your beliefs are not just thoughts you hold. They are the commands you give to your brain. They are the filters through which you interpret the world, the lens that colors every decision, every action, every result. You want to change your life. You have to change what you believe is true about yourself, about the world, about what's possible. The challenge is that most people walk around carrying beliefs they didn't choose. Beliefs handed down by family, by teachers, by culture, by failure, by fear. They've been installed like software in your mind without your permission, and now they're running the show. You've got beliefs about money, about love, about success, about who you are, and they are creating a ceiling in your life. And until you upgrade that operating system, you will keep repeating the same patterns over and over again, no matter how hard you try to change your behavior. Because behavior is the symptom. Belief is the root. If you try to change your life without changing your beliefs, you're fighting a battle with one hand tied behind your back. You might win for a while. You might even see some progress, but you'll snap back like a rubber band to the level of belief you truly hold. Not the one you say you have, not the one you post about, but the one you've rehearsed emotionally over and over again until it became part of your identity. This is why some people work hard for years and never break through, while others skyrocket seemingly overnight. The difference isn't talent, it's belief. One believes they're worthy of success. The other believes they're always going to struggle. One believes they're powerful, even when they're scared. The other believes they're stuck unless everything is perfect. Belief drives behavior. Belief drives energy. Belief drives focus. Belief builds or breaks momentum. The brain doesn't care if your belief is true or false. It just acts on it. It obeys whatever command you give it consistently. If you believe you're not enough, you'll find proof. If you believe you can't trust people, your brain will find betrayal in every interaction. If you believe life is unfair, your brain will highlight every injustice. Not because the world is full of only those things, but because that's what you told it to look for. The same works in reverse. If you believe you always find a way, your brain goes to work, scanning the environment for solutions. If you believe people are good, you start seeing kindness everywhere. The world reflects not what it is, but what you believe about it. Here's the most important truth: beliefs can be changed in an instant. Most people think it takes years. No, it takes a moment. One experience, one breakthrough. One decision can shatter a belief that's held you hostage for decades. The problem is, most people don't challenge their beliefs. They defend them. Even the ones that destroy them. They argue for their limitations. I'm not good with money. I always mess up relationships. I'm just not that confident. They don't realize that every time they say that, they are reinforcing a belief that's shaping their future. You've got to question the beliefs that keep you small. Where did that come from? Who taught you that? Is that belief based in truth or based in fear? You were not born doubting yourself. You were programmed. And if you were programmed, you can be reprogrammed. You can condition your brain to believe something different. But that requires intention. It requires repetition. It requires emotional intensity. You've got to wire the new belief into your nervous system so deeply that it becomes your default. And you don't do that just by writing affirmations. You do it by stacking references. By taking action even when you're scared. By proving to yourself over and over again that you are capable. That you are powerful. That you are worthy. Because once your brain sees enough evidence, it stops arguing. It accepts the new belief as fact. And when that happens, everything changes. Your brain is always asking two questions. What does this mean? And what should I do? And the answers to those questions are dictated by your beliefs. If you believe failure means you're not good enough, you'll avoid risk. If you believe failure means growth, you'll lean into challenge. If you believe rejection means you're unlovable, you'll hide. If you believe rejection is redirection, you'll stay open and keep going. The same event, completely different reactions based on belief. That's why two people can go through the exact same storm and come out with completely different lives. One uses it as fuel. The other uses it as proof that life is against them. It's not the storm, it's the story. And that story is written by your beliefs. If you want to rewrite your story, you have to edit the beliefs that are holding the pen. Look at the most successful people in any area of life. Whether it's business, sports, relationships, health. They all have one thing in common: they believe at a core level that they are meant for more. That belief drives the grind, the resilience, the innovation, the passion. It's not that they never feel fear. It's that they believe they can handle it. It's not that they never fail. It's that they believe they will rise. Belief doesn't eliminate obstacles. It equips you to face them with power instead of paralysis. And the beautiful thing is, you're not limited by the beliefs you grew up with. You get to choose new ones. You get to say, from now on, I believe I am resourceful. I believe I create my reality. I believe life is happening for me, not to me. And when you say that with enough conviction, with enough emotion, with enough repetition, your brain rewires, your identity shifts, and your actions follow. And once your actions follow, your results change. That's the power of belief. It is the seed of success or the root of ruin. You choose what it becomes. The quality of your life is not determined by what happens to you. It's determined by how you respond, and how you respond is controlled by how you've conditioned your mind. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, your mind is being shaped. The only question is, are you the one doing the shaping? You can't expect to live an extraordinary life with an untrained mind. You can't wake up every morning feeding your brain fear, doubt, and distraction, then wonder why your energy's low, your confidence is shaky, and your decisions feel small. The mind is like a muscle. If you don't train it, it gets weak. If you don't feed it the right thoughts, it will consume whatever's around it. And in today's world, that usually means negativity, chaos, comparison, and fear. So if you want to live at a peak level, you've got to condition your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. Mental conditioning is not optional for the committed. It's not a someday habit, it's a non-negotiable. It's what separates those who rise when it's hard from those who fold when it's uncomfortable. It's what allows you to access strength on command, confidence on command, clarity on command. Not because life gets easier, but because your mind gets stronger. You've got to build a ritual that puts you in charge of your state before the world ever gets a vote. You don't wait for inspiration to show up. You create it. You generate it. You step into it. Just like an athlete doesn't show up on game day, hoping their body's ready. You don't walk into life hoping your mindset will rise to the occasion. You train it so it's already there. It starts from the moment you open your eyes. Most people wake up and check their phone. Emails, news, social media. Their brain is immediately flooded with everyone else's agenda. That's not leadership. That's reaction. You've got to flip the script. You need to prime your mind. You need to create space, even if it's just 10 minutes, to get ahead of your thoughts instead of being pulled by them. And what do you do in that space? You focus, you breathe, you visualize, you speak life, you step into gratitude. You rehearse who you are becoming, not who you were. You declare your vision with strength, not with hesitation. You speak it out loud, not because the words are magic, but because the repetition is. Because the energy is. Because you are anchoring a new identity into your nervous system, one that doesn't negotiate with excuses. One that doesn't back down when it gets hard. Visualization isn't just woo hype. It's mental conditioning at the highest level. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between what's vividly imagined and what's actually experienced. So if you rehearse success in your mind with emotion, with clarity, with intensity, your brain starts wiring those patterns like it's already real. And if it's already real in your nervous system, you'll walk into your day with a completely different energy. You'll feel like you've already won. So now you're just living into it. That's power. That's leverage. And you don't have to wait until you feel like it. Champions don't wait until the mood is right. They do it because they've conditioned themselves to act regardless of mood. Mood is a luxury. Standard is the priority. And standard comes from repetition, from rituals, from practice. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your training. So you train your focus. You train your emotions. You train your inner dialogue. Because let's be honest, your thoughts don't just show up as random ideas. They come wrapped in emotion. And that emotion either fuels you or drains you. That's why conditioning your mind isn't just about thinking positive. It's about accessing a state. A high energy peak performance, no matter what state. That doesn't come by accident. That comes from stacking the right habits every single day. When you condition your mind daily, you build resilience. Not the kind that just helps you survive, but the kind that helps you advance when others freeze. The kind that turns adversity into ammunition. It's like armor. You still feel the hits, but you don't go down. You don't get stuck. You stay focused. You stay dangerous. And that's what makes you unstoppable. The reason most people don't follow through on their goals isn't because they're lazy. It's because they haven't conditioned their minds to override doubt when it shows up. They haven't trained their brains to recognize fear and move anyway. That's a skill. That's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows with pressure, with consistency, with effort. You don't build mental strength in theory. You build it in the fire. You build it every time you don't feel like doing the work, but you do it anyway. Every time you hear the inner critic, but you speak your truth louder. Every time you fall down and get back up faster. This isn't about hype. This is about discipline. Mental discipline. Emotional discipline. Decision discipline. You don't drift into confidence. You don't stumble into clarity. You train it. You earn it. You install it through habit. And the more you condition your mind, the less you rely on the world to motivate you, the less you need approval, the less you tolerate mediocrity. Because you've already made the decision, you've already cast the vote for who you are. And now your job is to remind yourself of it every single day until it becomes so deeply embedded that there is no going back. Whatever you focus on, you feel. Whatever you focus on, you move toward. Whatever you focus on, you create more of. Focus is not just part of success, it is success. It's the gatekeeper of your energy, your time, your emotions, your productivity. Focus is power. And the quality of your life is going to be determined by where that power is aimed. Your brain is a weapon, a tool of unimaginable strength. But like any tool, it's only as effective as the one who wields it. Most people walk around letting their focus be hijacked by everything around them: notifications, drama, fear, comparison, shiny distractions. They live in reaction, not creation. Their energy leaks out in 100 directions, and then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, underachieved, and out of alignment. It's not because they're not capable, it's because they're not focused. The human mind is like a spotlight. Wherever you aim it, that area becomes lit. You could be in a room filled with opportunity, filled with possibility, filled with strength. But if your focus is stuck on what's missing, what's wrong, what you fear, what you regret, then that is all you see. That's all you feel. And eventually, that's all you believe. Not because it's the whole truth, but because that's what you've chosen to highlight. Focus is a decision. It's not random. It's not automatic. It's something you direct. It's something you command. You've got to decide what gets your focus, and just as importantly, what doesn't. Because what you don't focus on dies. What you ignore fades. And sometimes, the breakthrough doesn't come from doing more. It comes from eliminating the noise that keeps you from locking in on what really matters. You can't afford to live in a distracted state. Distraction is the death of momentum. The moment your focus fragments, your power dilutes. You could be doing the right thing in the right moment with the right tools, but if your mind is elsewhere, if your emotions are scattered, you're just going through the motions, and results never come from motion. They come from intentional motion. They come from motion aligned with focused energy. Every peak performer, every game changer, every next level human you admire, they have mastered the art of focus. They've trained themselves to put their full mind, their full heart, their full spirit into whatever they're doing. When they're with their family, they're present. When they're working, they're locked in. When they're learning, they're absorbing. They're not half in, half out. They are all in. And that's what makes the difference. The truth is, your focus determines your future. Because your focus creates your emotions. Your emotions shape your decisions, and your decisions shape your destiny. If you wake up and focus on what you can't control, you will feel powerless. But if you wake up and focus on your mission, on your purpose, on what you can do, even if it's small, you'll feel momentum, you'll feel strength, you'll feel drive, and that drive compounds. Most people focus on the problem. Leaders focus on the solution. Most people focus on the past. Winners focus on what's next. Most people focus on what they lack. Champions focus on what they can leverage. The difference is the filter, the direction of attention, the training of thought. And if you can own your focus, you can own your life. Focus also determines how you experience pressure. Pressure isn't the enemy. Scattered focus is. When your mind is all over the place, pressure becomes chaos. But when your focus is narrowed, pressure becomes clarity. Pressure becomes power. It becomes fuel. You start to feel the challenge, but not in a way that overwhelms you, in a way that sharpens you. That's what high performers do. They don't avoid pressure. They manage their focus so pressure becomes an ally, not an enemy. You've got to discipline your focus like it's your most valuable asset. Because it is. You've got to ask yourself every single day, what am I focusing on? What am I making it mean? And what am I going to do about it? Because those three questions will define the state you're in. And the state you're in will dictate the quality of your performance. Focus isn't just mental, it's emotional. If you focus on failure, you feel fear. If you focus on growth, you feel excitement. If you focus on your insecurities, you feel stuck. If you focus on your mission, you feel alive. Same person, same day, completely different result, just because of focus. So don't tell me you're stuck. Don't tell me you're overwhelmed. Tell me where your focus is. Because that's what's driving the feeling. And the feeling is driving the action or the inaction. Focus also builds identity. If you focus on being consistent every day, you begin to become consistent. If you focus on being strong when it's hard, you begin to become resilient. You're not born with these traits. They're built through focus, repeated, reinforced, reclaimed every single day. You have to guard your focus like your life depends on it. Because the truth is, it does. Every distraction has a cost. Every time you let the world drag you into reactive energy, you're stepping further away from your own power. And power doesn't come from doing everything. It comes from doing the right things with intensity, with intention, with relentless focus. You've got to decide what deserves your energy. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every opinion. Not every setback. Not every problem. You've got to train your mind to zero in on the outcome, the vision, the mission. And when you lock in, when you commit, when you decide to block out everything that doesn't move you forward, something shifts. You stop negotiating. You stop second guessing. You stop chasing things that don't serve you. And in that space, where the noise disappears and the target becomes clear, you discover a level of power you didn't even know you had. Because now your mind isn't scattered. It's aligned. It's working for you. You are no longer reacting to the world. You are creating it. You can have all the strategy in the world. But if you don't have the emotional intensity behind it, it's worthless. You can have the best plan, the clearest goal, the perfect roadmap. But if the emotion isn't there, the execution dies. Emotion is what drives execution. Emotion is what creates momentum. Emotion is the fuel of life. Most people live like emotion is something that just happens to them. They wake up and hope to feel motivated, hope to feel confident, hope to feel inspired. That's weakness. That's passivity. That's not leadership. Emotion is not something you wait for. It's something you generate. You decide. You trigger it. You create it on command. If you don't, then the world will do it for you. And the world isn't always generous. You want to be successful. Then get serious about mastering your emotional state. Because your emotional state is the foundation of every decision you make. When you're angry, you choose differently than when you're calm. When you're confident, you act differently than when you're insecure. And when you're driven, when you're emotionally locked into your purpose, you show up with a fire that no obstacle can extinguish. But when you're emotionally flat, doesn't matter how smart you are, you stall. Every result you've created in your life came from a state. A peak state, a low state, a reactive state, a powerful state. State equals emotion in motion. And when you don't learn to manage it, it manages you. So many people are stuck not because they're not talented or worthy, but because they're addicted to the wrong emotional states. They're wired for stress, anxiety, self-doubt, apathy. And what you feel most often becomes your baseline. If you want to change your life, you've got to change the emotional states you live in, not visit once in a while. You've got to build an emotional home that supports your vision. And that means wiring in passion, hunger, gratitude, certainty, drive, not when things are perfect, but especially when they're not. That's the real test. Can you access strength in the storm? Can you stay grounded in the chaos? Can you shift out of fear and into power, even when everything's on the line? Because if you can do that, if you can command your emotions instead of being a slave to them, there is no situation you can't navigate. Emotions are not just reactions, they're resources. And every emotion, even the painful ones, fear can sharpen you, pain can awaken you. Frustration can drive change, but you have to own the emotion, you have to direct it. Otherwise it owns you. The difference between peak performers and everyone else is that they've built rituals to access powerful states on demand. They don't rely on chance. They anchor those states in their body, in their breath, in their movement, in their words. They don't wait for emotion. They trigger it. That's the work most people avoid. But it's the most important work you'll ever do. You've got to get in your body. You've got to move differently, breathe differently, speak differently. Because emotion doesn't live in your head, it lives in your physiology. You can't think your way out of a low state. You've got to shift it in your body first. Change your posture, your pace, your voice. Change your emotion. It's that fast. But you've got to decide, and you've got to mean it. You can train your nervous system to access a peak state just like you train a muscle. Repetition, intensity, consistency. Every time you get into that emotional gear, you're reinforcing a pathway, you're hardwiring access to power, and eventually, it becomes automatic, it becomes your default. You walk differently, talk differently, think differently, not because the world changed, but because you changed how you experience it. And it's not about being happy all the time. That's not real. That's not the goal. The goal is to have range. Emotional intelligence, emotional agility, the power to shift when it matters, the strength to hold space for what's real without letting it derail you, the clarity to feel fully without getting trapped. That's emotional mastery. That's what makes you dangerous. Most people suppress their emotions or get swallowed by them. But real power comes when you use emotion, when you turn fear into urgency, when you turn anger into courage, when you turn sadness into connection. That's the difference between suffering and growth, how you interpret and channel emotion. One person feels fear and runs, another feels fear and charges forward, same emotion. Different outcome, because one is the master and the other is the servant. An emotion doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects what you remember, what you learn, how you connect, how you lead. Emotion is what makes communication land. It's what gives your vision life. It's what makes your actions magnetic. If you're not emotionally engaged, no one else will be. If you don't feel it, no one else will feel it. You want to lead? Then bring the fire. Don't wait for permission. Don't tone it down to make others comfortable. Bring the full weight of your emotion to the table. That's what changes people. That's what changes lives. You don't inspire people with logic. You don't move them with spreadsheets. You move them with emotion. You move them with certainty. You move them with intensity. And before you can move them, you have to move yourself. That starts by building rituals that wire in power. Gratitude every morning, visualization every night, breath work to shift energy, motion to reset state, affirmations that ignite the truth, anchors that snap you out of the spiral, not just when you feel like it, especially when you don't. That's when it matters most. Because that's when your identity is forged. Every single time you rise above the emotion that wants to pull you down, you're reinforcing a new standard. You're teaching your nervous system, your subconscious, your identity. This is who I am now. And you do it again and again. Until it's no longer effort, it's automatic. Until that emotional fuel is no longer a temporary burst, but a permanent fire that drives everything you do. You want to change your life. Then you've got to change the environment that created it. You want to level up? You better look around and ask, what am I breathing in every single day? Because your environment is not neutral. It's shaping you. It's conditioning you. It's either reinforcing the version of you that's average, uncertain, and reactive, or it's pulling the next version of you out and into the world. There is no in between. There's no standing still. Your environment is a constant force. The question is it working for you or against you? You can have the right mindset, the right habits, the right plan. But if you're living in an environment that contradicts that identity, sooner or later, it's going to break you down. It doesn't matter how strong your will is. If the current is always pulling you backwards, you will get tired. You will slow down. You will start negotiating with your standards. Because willpower is a spark, but environment is the oxygen. It determines whether that spark becomes a fire or fizzles out. Environment isn't just physical. It's psychological, emotional, energetic. It's the conversations you hear, the expectations that surround you, the energy of the people you allow into your space. It's the beliefs you absorb from your circle, your community, your digital world. It's the invisible rules you start to follow without realizing. That's why this is not about just changing your wallpaper or cleaning your desk. It's about upgrading the standard of everything that touches your mind, your body, and your emotions. Look at your circle. Do they challenge you or comfort you? Do they celebrate your growth or get threatened by it? Do they call you higher or pull you back to the level where they feel safe? That matters. Because your identity doesn't just emerge from within. It's reflected and reinforced by the people around you. If everyone around you expects small thinking, you'll start shrinking to fit. If everyone around you tolerates excuses, you'll start making them. But if you put yourself in rooms where excellence is normal, where growth is assumed, where hunger is the baseline, your game changes, because now you have to rise just to belong. It's not about being the smartest in the room. It's about finding rooms where your potential gets stretched, where your comfort zone gets called out, where mediocrity has no place to hide. Because when you're in a high-growth environment, your identity starts to shift automatically. You see new possibilities. You hear new language. You feel new standards. And without even realizing it, you begin to become the person who belongs in that space. That's identity through exposure. That's transformation by immersion. And it's not just about people. It's about what you consume. What are you feeding your brain every day? What are you watching, reading, scrolling through? Because everything you let in is either reinforcing a story of power or a story of limitation. You can't watch garbage, listen to gossip, drown in fear-based media, and expect your mind to stay strong. That's not how it works. You've got to curate your input like your life depends on it. Because it does. You've got to build an ecosystem that reflects where you're going, not where you've been. That means removing the subtle toxins, the habits, voices, and patterns that quietly tell you to stay the same. That means setting up anchors in your space that pull you back to your purpose. Visual cues, words, goals on the wall, rituals that snap you back into your mission. You build an environment that demands your greatness. You don't wait for inspiration, you install it. And yes, this takes courage, because sometimes it means walking away from people you've known for years. Sometimes it means becoming unrecognizable to those who only know the old version of you. Sometimes it means stepping into rooms where you feel intimidated, exposed, stretched. But that's where growth lives. That's where your future identity gets forged. You don't build a new life inside the same walls that built your limitations. When you start owning your environment, you stop reacting to the world and start creating the world around you. That's power. That's ownership. That's freedom. Because now you're not at the mercy of your surroundings, you're designing them. And every choice you make, what you allow in, what you remove, what you elevate, is a vote for the person you're becoming. If you want to feel stronger, be in an environment that rewards discipline. If you want to think bigger, be around people who challenge your vision. If you want to move faster, put yourself in spaces where urgency is the norm. If you want to lead, immerse yourself in leadership. You can't just read about it, you've got to feel it, see it, breathe it, until it becomes your new normal. This is why so many people struggle with real, lasting change. They try to shift their habits without shifting their surroundings. They try to rewrite their identity while still surrounded by echoes of the past. But change doesn't stick in isolation. It sticks in alignment. And alignment starts with the world you choose to live in, the people you let close, the standards you uphold, the boundaries you reinforce, the energy you accept and reject. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to wait for permission to change your environment. You don't have to wait for someone to invite you into a better space. You can start building it now. One decision at a time, one boundary at a time, one upgrade at a time. Every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you make space for what does. Every time you raise your standard for what you allow into your life, you raise your capacity to lead it. This is how identity is shaped. Not by accident, not by hope, but by deliberate, conscious, unapologetic design. You shape the space shapes you, and together they shape your future. Nothing happens until you move. Nothing changes until you act. You can have the clearest vision, the strongest belief, the most empowering environment. But until that belief is converted into motion, it's just potential. Potential is worthless without execution. It's like having dynamite with no fuse. Like having a car with no gas. If you want to win, if you want to build something unshakable, you must train yourself to take action. Not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, but constantly, consistently, and with force. Massive action is the difference between wishful thinking and ownership. It's what separates the ones who dream from the ones who build. It's not about dipping your toes in the water. It's about diving in, knowing you'll figure out how to swim once you're in motion. Because most people are stuck in the trap of preparation. Endless planning. Endless waiting. Waiting for certainty. Waiting for perfection. Waiting for someone else to go first. But you were not born to wait, you were built to move. And the moment you decide to act, everything starts to shift. Action is how momentum is built. It's how fear is broken. It's how confidence is earned, not by thinking more, not by journaling for clarity, but by doing something bold. Because you cannot think your way into a new life. You can only act your way into one. The problem is that most people confuse movement with action. They're busy, but they're not effective. They're checking boxes, but they're not making progress. Massive action is different. It's focused. It's intentional. It's uncomfortable by design. And that's what makes it powerful. You've got to be willing to be bad before you're good. Willing to stumble, fall, get messy, get judged, fail forward. Because action exposes your limits. And that's a good thing. You can't expand in the dark. You've got to hit the edge to see where you are. And once you see it, you push it. You stretch it. You shatter it. That's what massive action does. It reveals the next level. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel polished. But it feels alive. It makes you grow. Purposeful action means you don't just move. You move in the direction that aligns with your vision. You don't just hustle to stay busy. You make every move count. Every decision matters. Every step is connected to your outcome. Because hustle without clarity is just exhaustion. You've got to act with direction. You've got to move with intention. That's how you go from spinning wheels to building legacy. And when you take massive, purposeful action, you get feedback, real feedback. Not the imaginary fears in your head. Not the made-up scenarios that keep you frozen. But actual data, reality, truth. You learn what works, what doesn't, what needs adjusting. You get the clarity that planning can never give you. Because clarity comes from engagement, not from analysis. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates mastery. That cycle is where excellence is born. And here's the kicker. Massive action is a habit. It's not a one-time decision. It's not a New Year's resolution. It's a lifestyle. It's a muscle you build through repetition. The more you act, the more you trust yourself. The more you trust yourself, the more bold you become. And the more bold you become, the faster you grow. It's a loop. It feeds itself. But it starts with the first step. Not the perfect step, just the first. The imperfect, awkward, real step that tells the world, I'm in. You can study all the books, go to all the events, listen to all the wisdom, but none of it will change your life until you decide to apply it. Application is the key. Knowledge is potential power, but applied knowledge is transformation. You want to master something? Don't just study it. Live it, breathe it, move with it. Apply it over and over again until your body knows it, your nervous system owns it, and it becomes who you are. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year with relentless action. That's because they confuse intensity with consistency. They go hard once and disappear for a month. That's not mastery, that's ego. The ones who win are the ones who show up, rain or shine, who act when it's boring, who move when they're tired, who execute even when no one's watching. That's how identity gets, but that's how legacies are made. And yes, you will fail. You will make mistakes. You will hit walls. That's part of it. That's the tuition for greatness. But the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. The goal is evolution. You don't need to get it right. You just need to get it going. Because from motion comes clarity. From clarity comes refinement. And from refinement comes results. You don't wait to feel ready, you move, and readiness catches up. You don't wait for the fear to go away. You move through the fear. You rewire the story by proving to your mind over and over that you are the kind of person who does hard things, who doesn't negotiate with comfort, who doesn't run from resistance. That identity doesn't get downloaded. It gets earned through action. So when in doubt, act. When overwhelmed, act. When uncertain, act. The worst decision is indecision. Because while you're standing still, life keeps moving. And eventually hesitation becomes regret. But when you move, when you truly commit with everything you've got, you build power. You create momentum. And momentum is the ultimate force. Once you've got it, it carries you. It elevates you, it makes you unstoppable. Success isn't something you stumble into. It's something you build. It's something you train for. Every single day. It's not about luck. It's not about waiting for the stars to align. It's about deciding right now that you will become the kind of person who creates it, commands it, and sustains it. You train your brain for success by mastering your focus. Because where focus goes, energy flows. You break the cycle of old patterns and replace them with powerful beliefs that actually serve you. You condition your mind daily. Because repetition is the mother of mastery. You connect emotion to your purpose so deeply that no setback can shake it. You shape your environment to reflect your future, not your past. And above all, you move. You take massive, purposeful action again and again until progress becomes your identity. This isn't motivation. This is alignment. This is real world transformation. This is the difference between playing at life and leading it. The question is, how bad do you want it? Because your mind is trainable, your habits are rewirable, your environment is controllable, your emotions are usable, and your future is yours to create if you're willing to do the work. Not someday, not when it's easy. Now let's go.